What's up, folks? How's it going? Coming to you today with what will probably be kind of a long, rambling video of a couple of topics that are going to seem disjointed, but I swear to God they fit together in some sort of fucking way in my head. The first thing I wanted to talk about, so I mentioned before that I recently moved from the Detroit area. I moved further north, and I had the opportunity the other day to run an errand even further north up to a place called Oscoda. If you are not from Michigan, or even if you are from Michigan, you may be forgiven for not knowing where the fuck Oscoda is, or even if it's, you might not even have known it's existed. I knew it existed, but I'd never been there before until the last couple of weeks. I had to do some work up there. So I'll show you where Oscoda is using my advanced technology here. That's correct, right? No. Right? You're seeing it like that. Yeah. So Oscoda is like up here. This hand is Michigan. And that's like Oscoda's like up here. It's not near any major freeways or anything like that. It's on US 23, but it's not really a freeway. You'd have to drive for a while to get to 75, which is like the closest proper freeway there. And when I was in Oscoda, I noticed, well, goddamn, they sure do have a large airport, right? It's a huge airport. Mind you, there's like 1,000 people in this town, right? So I went and looked it up later, and I felt kind of dumb because I feel like I like to think of myself as a guy that knows a little bit about his history and especially on his Michigan stuff, but I didn't know that Oscoda was home to an air base. It was home to Wurtsmith Air Force Base in Oscoda, Michigan. It's pretty cool. They got some of you Cold War buffs might know about the Christmas tree formation on the any air base that served that hosted B-52s. When they were on alert, they would sit on this the concrete. It looks like a Christmas tree because of the way that the planes were lined up, and they would take off, as they got ready and take off on alert. So this was a base. This was a Strategic Air Command B-52 bomber base, and presumably they also would have air defenses radars. So I did a little bit more researching on that, and there are actually 3 B-52 bases in the state of Michigan. The other 2 were in the Upper Peninsula. One was near Sault Ste. Marie, which is on the far east side of the Upper Peninsula, and the other one was in Marquette County, so kind of like middle part of the Upper Peninsula, right? So, this base is no longer operational. It was shut down in 1993? 1993. So it was shut down after the Cold War. Oscoda might be familiar to any of you. It was featured in Bowling for Columbine, one of the movies that Michael Moore made before he totally lost his shit. But he went up there because it was either Eric or Dylan, I can't remember which one. His father had been in the Air Force and was based there at Wurtsmith Air Force Base in Oscoda. So Michael Moore went up there for the purposes of talking to some people that had known him, so that might be a note of interest for media. So whatever, what's the point of me telling you this? Well, I often drive around. I'm a very Midwestern person. I don't feel comfortable without some certain amount of decay around me, and I spend a lot of time, though not right now with these fucking gas prices, but I like looking around and seeing things I've never seen before. And I drive through a lot of small towns that are, way past their prime for a variety of reasons. A lot of small towns in America, they used to have the railway station. Now the railway station doesn't matter as much. Or, in some parts of northern Ohio, they might have been important because they were part of the canal system that doesn't get used anymore. There might have been a coal mining town, a copper mining town, yada, yada, yada. So it's a natural economic reason why these areas no longer are as popular. It's sad, but it's one of those things that's just, I don't know, it's a passage of time. If you build a town to mine the copper, eventually you'll run out of copper and you'll run out of town, right? But Oscoda is more or less a place that, it existed before. It's near the coast. It was involved in logging on some level, like most cities and towns in Michigan. But the main reason for its expansion was this big ass fucking Air Force base that existed for 70 years. It was created in 1923, and they closed it in 1993. And there was up to 3,000 people working on this base. And of course they had to, frequent the town and the stores and stuff. Now the town's got less than 900 people in it. It's a nice place, but it's very far away from freeways, so it's not getting the same kind of, not as many people are buying a summer place there, you know what I mean? Though it might be a good place because it's a little bit cheaper. But this is one of, this story is all across America. There was, it's not just Michigan, there's bases everywhere. And I started reading about base realignment and closure, okay? Which I've read a little bit. I've seen that term here and there when I've read about different bases and stuff. So base realignment and closure was the program that Congress initiated towards the end of the Cold War and after it in order to shut down, military bases they felt they didn't need anymore. They shut down 350 installations have been closed in 5 rounds, 1998, 91, 93, 95, and 2005. And most of you could probably think, if you're old enough, of a base somewhere near you having this happen, and this can be a big deal for the economy of these places. But this was seen as necessary to save money. Well, how much money? And it's very interesting because just today I'm hearing about how, we're going to be sending $14 billion or something, 13 point something, nearly $14 billion to Ukraine to help them. And that money will be, I'm sure, wisely spent, right? It's going to be spent to kill people. That's the best case scenario, really. I mean, that's what they want it to be used for, is to kill a bunch of people. Most of it will probably end up in motherfuckers' pockets, just like most of these situations. But okay, $14 billion. And again, money doesn't really matter to the federal government unless it's about taking your money, because they'll just print any amount of money. It doesn't matter. The only time they're interested in money is when they're taking taxes from you, which they do solely, in my opinion, to create the illusion that it has some kind of value. But we're going to throw $14 billion to help prolong the suffering and the combat in Ukraine. So they closed 350 installations in 5 rounds, 1998, 91, 93, 95, and 2005. 350 installations, many of which, and some of them were repurposed, or turned into something slightly different, so they weren't all closed completely, but many of them were. And a large amount of them were the nucleus for a small town. Where families and people, it's like, you go to these types of places, and because I've been to other towns like Oscoda that had military bases, and you'll find that it creates something that the people seem to like, or at least the media would tell you that people like, which is diversity, but real diversity, in that it's people from all over the country, all types, end up there because that's what the military is, and all people get mixed up. So you might, if you find a dude in fucking northern Michigan that speaks like he's from Kentucky, it might be because he grew up in Kentucky and his dad was in the Air Force and they sent him to Oscoda. So that's interesting. But so the closing of these 350 installations and all the, the equipment and everything there. Many of them had to become Superfund sites because, they had to do a lot of different things and stuff like that. According to Congress, these rounds constitute a combined savings of $12 billion annually. $12 billion annually is all it was costing for 350 defense installations that not only served one of the few legitimate purposes, in my opinion, of the government, the federal government, which is national defense, but it also had the bonus of contributing to these local economies. But to save $12 billion, okay, which $12 billion ain't shit. If anything, the Ukrainians should be pissed off that they're not getting more money because 13 whatever billion is not that much money to these people. But they condemned, hundreds of small towns to oblivion, slow death, to save 12 billion fake dollars. And it's even more ironic considering that we've come full circle and our fucking retarded government now has us head to head again with the Russians, and putting us at the brink of global catastrophe with a greatly reduced ability to defend ourselves and to respond to attack. And it would have only taken $12 billion aid. And think of all the other things that's into that. So not only the towns that don't have the money, now you've reduced the size of the military drastically. You can't just, especially something like the Air Force, these are highly trained positions. You can't just bring that back. You know what I mean? If they wanted to open all these bases back up, they couldn't. It's funny because I was reading about some of the units that were at this Wordsmith Air Force Base, and like one of them is, where is it? The 379th Air Expeditionary Wing is a provisional United States Air Force unit assigned to Air Combat Command. As a provisional unit, it may be activated or inactivated at any time. So they have all these, this is part of the way that they pump up the numbers in our military to make it look like it's bigger than it is. They have all these different units that they move around, they rebadge shit, do all kind of shit like this. But there's a lot of famous squadrons there. What are they? They used to fly B-52s. What do they fly now? It says it's active, but they haven't flown since. They're in Iraq War. Flying B-52s in the Middle East, but I don't think that was in this last one. Okay, B-1B Lancer. Anyway, the point is that they had all these units that you can't very easily replace. All these areas. So, people talk about, welfare, what should the government do to help people? I don't believe it's in the government's mandate to directly provide aid to people. I do believe, though, that if in the process of fulfilling its actual constitutional obligations, if one of the side effects is that has the benefit of helping people, that's good. That should be considered a happy side effect of this. It's like, we're still this giant military-industrial complex, but your people don't even get the fucking benefit of it. They don't even have the benefit that you get from it. Just like we're this huge rich country, and our people are getting poorer and poorer. According to the TV, we're still the most powerful military in the world. I find that very difficult to believe with this sort of thing. But to save $12 billion... And how much money did they spend on that piece of fucking shit F-35 that they took, taxpayers' money and just threw it at them to hey, this would be good because you can turn around and you can sell this on the foreign market. You're not going to get that money. Who gives a fucking shit if anybody buys these fucking planes? It doesn't help anybody. The amount of money that we spent to fucking research them, you won't even be able to pay that back, even if they gave a cut of it to the government or the taxpayers for paying every fucking dime of this shit. But at least when we used to throw fucking unknowable quantities of money at the military-industrial complex, at least it had the added advantage of keeping the local pizza fucking place open. And now you don't even get that. Our government spends more money than ever, and you don't even get that. I find that very interesting, and I don't know, it just really bugged me. I don't know if that's interesting to anybody else or whatever, but it just seems to me like shit, man. If I'm running America and I won the Cold War, I'm like, fuck, dude, I could save $12 billion, which is like what they spend on like a couple of yachts and shit like this. I could save $12 billion a year and condemn hundreds of towns to a slow, painful death. Or I could like keep up my mission capability and, for a relatively cheap price, keep up our defense and also have the bonus of, continued experience and all this kind of stuff. We should have tried to stay on top of this shit. But we never fucking do that. Every time there's a conflict won, the government does everything in their fucking capacity to make it so that we are in a weakened state after that. And it used to make sense when there was some connection between the actual amount of money that the government took in and then spent. But now it literally doesn't matter. I mean, and that's not my opinion. That's the position of the economic theorists that are advising our government is you can just spend whatever you want. Shit, $12 billion could have saved Oscoda. Not even $12 billion because I did the math and that's an average of $34 million per installation saved. $34 million. Because it's like most of the money for these facilities is at the front end. Building everything and all that kind of shit. Once you've already built the air defenses, the radars, these fucking huge runways, the hangars, that's your big money up front. Everything after that is just maintenance and paying people and shit like that. It doesn't even make fucking logical sense from a military preparedness standpoint, in my opinion. But what the fuck do I know? So that just kind of blows my mind because it's like, everybody wants more money from the government. And here's a program that I'm sure was embraced in a bipartisan fashion at the time, though I'm sure that as they approached, I'm sure that there were individual representatives and senators fighting specific base closures in order to appease their constituents, but in general, this was embraced as like a positive. And then everybody's running around like, well, we need to give out free this, free that. And it's like, well, for $12 billion, I could have saved a couple hundred towns. How much money is a town worth? How much money is a neighborhood worth? How much money is the infrastructure? How much money is lifetimes and stories and shit? Like, I'm sure if you go to these places, they'll still talk about them like it's the biggest deal in town, even though these bases have been closed for 30 years. And, but that just shows it's the way that the federal government, and it always has, treated the rural residents of this country as rubes and people to be stepped on and used. And then left with this giant fucking airport, which is like cool looking, but I can't imagine what it costs this fucking little ass town to make it usable because they're trying to get something out of it. They try to have air shows there. They got some planes on display and stuff, but maintaining this huge facility has got to be a fucking drain on them. So it's like, yeah, the federal government saved $12 billion. Again, the federal government that doesn't actually give a fuck how much money it spends. But it didn't save the people of America $12 billion. I'm sure it's cost the city of Oscoda and any number. Again, this story is all over America, but there's a lot more Air Force bases around like the east west and northern like borders of the United States. There's not as much of those in the south. The Air Force bases, that is. It's just interesting to me. I don't know. I don't really have like a thesis on this. It's just something that I've been thinking about since I was up in Oscoda. A couple other topics here. I put them on the notepad. One of them is kind of old news, I guess, because yesterday is old news. But it was brought back fresh to me because one of the I subscribe to all the fucking self-defense shooting channels and all the news and shit. So all I do is watch fucking local news from places I don't live, and fucking like Brazilian off-duty cops like fucking killing like motorcycle bandits and shit. But they on Active Self-Protection, which is it's a huge YouTube channel about self-defense and police shootings and stuff. They were talking about this case that happened a couple months ago. Make sure I get the dude's name right. Oh, it was on November 5th. So in November, in Texas, this gentleman, Chad, and I'm going to link the video in the description. So if you haven't seen this, I want you to watch it and read the comments and just tell me what you think, if you think that I'm like off on this. But this is something that the attitude surrounding the video and especially the comments is something that I've found very disturbing for some time in similar cases. So I want you to watch the video, but I'll also tell the story real quick. There's a custody dispute. Gentleman is supposed to pick up his son. His son is not where he thought his son was supposed to be. And the kid's like, he wasn't super young. He's like, I don't know if it says here. I don't remember. He's not like a baby or something. He's like old enough to go to his friend's house or something on his own. You know what I mean? But anyway, the kid wasn't where he was supposed to be. His ex-wife told him that the kid was with the grandfather, and to my understanding, that turned out to be the case. But anyway, this gentleman, Chad, which is his real name, believed that the kid was at his ex-wife's new lover's house, right? So he like goes there to confront these people, and like the kid, by the way, was not there. So that's very important to understand in the story, and part of why this pisses me off so much. The kid was not there, okay? It turned out that the story was true. The kid was with their grandfather. Anyway, this guy has this whole confrontation. The new boyfriend, supposedly, tells the guy to fuck off his property. He comes outside with a 9mm carbine type deal. The guy's like, I'll take that from you, I'll shoot. They start tussling, and the new boyfriend ends up shooting and killing this guy, Chad, on his front porch there. And the most striking thing to me about the video is how little, because the scene that we get of it, one of the views we get of it, we get a view from inside, like the house, but we also get a view from outside of the car, from a car being driven by this gentleman Chad's new wife. She is fucking recording the whole thing and doesn't seem the least bit like fucking freaked out that her husband just got fucking blown away right in front of her. But these comment sections, and I remember when this first happened a couple of months ago, there was a lot of the same reactions from these people like, oh, I would have done the same fucking thing if they kept my son from me. I would do anything to get him back. I would do anything. I'd fucking do it. And there's all these maniacs telling stories about like this thing and that thing, and like they're telling a bunch of stories that in my opinion make them sound like fucking psychopaths. Like, hey bro, maybe talking this way is the reason why it hasn't worked out for you in the fucking court system. Because, like, believe me, I know guys get fucked over in the court system. But, one way to help yourself not get fucked over in court is you keep your fucking mouth shut and have no emotion about what you're involved in at all, okay? Because it's only going to hurt you. It's only fucking possibly going to hurt you. If you're involved in any legal situation, whatever, you fucking keep your emotions and all your feelings and all this gay shit and your ego and shit out of it, or else you're going to get fucking hammered, okay? But it's like, if this is the mindset of the collective single fathers of America, it's no fucking wonder that they keep getting fucked over in court, because it's like, these people are all upset that this dude Chad is supposedly having his kid, and they're saying it's a crime. It's kidnapping, which is fucking crazy. And I've argued the other way, because it's like, if you have legal custody on some level of the kid, and you like have a kid, it's not fucking kidnapping. That's fucking crazy. Okay, that's the kind of shit that scorned women pull on people. Okay, but guys have no problem. You're being a hypocrite. Turn around and do the other thing. It's like, is a kid kidnapped? No. He was with his fucking grandfather. Okay, he was not in any danger, and he was not kidnapped. Okay, that's stupid. But you know what you do? If your fucking cunt wife is denying you access to your children on a day that you're legally supposed to have access to them, what you do is you call the police, you fucking film and document this shit, and you take it to court. You're not going to win, even if the man did not die. What was supposed to happen when he went to the house? Because he thought his kid was there, right? The kid, again, was not there, but he thought his kid was there. So what was he going to do? Drag his kid out of the house and fight everybody? You can't do that either, bro. You can't fucking do that. Is that fair? I don't know. It doesn't matter, though, because that's not the deal. Now, this type of bullshit is toxic masculinity. A lot of people who are anti-leftist and stuff will say there's no such thing. They say toxic masculinity is like a buzzword. I think toxic masculinity is real, and it manifests itself in these types of situations. It reminds me of, and it just really fucking irritates me. I might have talked about this before, but it really fucking, to borrow a term from the left, triggers me when you might remember the case of the Michigan State gymnastics coach or whatever, or doctor, that Larry Nassar, that was molesting all these gymnast girls, right? And he's in prison for life, I think. He's fucked, and it was a huge national story, but it was extra big here in Michigan because we have 30% of people in the state have a bachelor's degree or better, and yet you'd think everybody went to Michigan State or U of M. It's very annoying to me. But anyway, so famously, towards like the end of this case and shit, one of the fathers of one of the girls that actually took the stand, lunged for and attacked Larry Nassar, right? Didn't even really get any fucking hits on him. He ends up being, restrained, and the judge let him, basically let him off with a warning. And the guy goes out and gives this big fucking speech in front of the press, like, I just couldn't control myself, my daughter and all this other shit. And I'm like, hey, bro, this impotent lashing out at this man isn't worth a fucking dick. And what you've done is even further, because his fucking daughter, who just had to testify about this grotesque shit, is standing next to him fucking traumatized. Does she feel any better that you got your swing in? Maybe you should have been applying some of this fucking, sharp intellectual fucking, this big brain here towards like wondering why your daughter, every time she came back from the fucking sports medicine guy, that she takes like a 6-hour shower and won't look anybody in the fucking eyes. Maybe you should have been paying closer attention to your child, okay? Instead of coming out impotently and trying to regain your manhood. And the sad part about it is that people gave him all kind of fucking credit for it. If I was that fucking judge, I would have put that cocksucker in jail for 30 days or whatever I could for assault. and disrupting the court because it was fucking gay. It didn't do shit, okay? And you just proved that you're a fucking Neanderthal retard who couldn't do shit before, and now you're going to do... And you know what? He didn't succeed. You know, people will talk about the case of that guy who killed, very famously, I don't remember his name, but it was like on live television, this guy had kidnapped and molested this man's young son, and he waited for him. He was apprehended and being taken through the airport, and he shot him and killed him. I'm not against that, okay? But he actually did the shit, okay? He didn't just throw a fucking hissy fit on TV in front of his fucking family and everybody to prove that he's a big man. You're not a big man. If you were a big man, you would have fucking noticed something before. Or you would keep your fucking head down and let the people who did figure out that something was wrong serve justice. You know, it's really dumb, and it's this need to appear to not lose face, which is a very a male thing. You know, I struggle. Every guy with testosterone, I would imagine, struggles with this just urge to not feel disrespected or challenged or whatever. And of course, people handle this on different levels. Like, you know, people that I've known that are into martial arts tend to be pretty good at this because they're trained to. They're more calm about it. They just don't feel as challenged as much because like they feel very confident in themselves. So they're not as insecure. You know, they don't get as angry. A lot of anger, like I mean, in my personal life, to psychoanalyze myself, a lot of the anger I feel in interpersonal situations is frequently, in my opinion, a result of, you know, unresolved kind of like childhood shit. Like there's a scared, you know, on some level there's a scared little boy in there. You know what I mean? Which I think I think most men deal with that to one extent or another, and they often put on a false front of bravado in order to protect, you know, this person that's inside of them. And in the case of this gentleman in Texas, he puts on his fucking show, which again, the best case scenario for him in this was for him to get fucking arrested, because that's what would have happened if he went into the house. If the guy hadn't had a gun and they just went the way it would have gone anyway, he would have just had the fucking sheriffs come, arresting his stupid fucking ass, and then his ex-wife, if she is a cunt, well, that cunt is going to be able to go to the next hearing and say, well, look, my asshole ex-husband got himself fucking arrested and dragged away by the sheriffs the other day because he thought I kidnapped the kid. I told him he was at the fucking grandfather's, and the judge is going to look at this asshole and say, you're a fucking dick. Fuck you. That's what the judge is going to do. And if you don't think that, you're fucking stupid. And it's not surprising to me that so many people are getting their fucking asses handed to them in court when this is the prevailing fucking mental attitude of the scorned fathers of America. And it's not a defense of course we have a legal system that treats women as if economically they're in the same position that they were in the 40s. That's wrong. Absolutely wrong. Okay? And in no way do I defend that. But if you go into a fucking courtroom of any type or approach any legal situation with this type of attitude, it's not going to fucking bode well for you, bro. Especially when you know that you're in a situation where the cards are fucking stacked against you. It's more important for a lot of these people to maintain this false sense of fucking bravado than to actually do the logical. It might not be as satisfying in the moment for this gentleman to, actually, do the calm thing, take the record, note that this discrepancy, maybe he's got to call the police, make a police report, he's got to be calm during that whole thing. That wouldn't have been that wouldn't be as immediately gratifying to this asshole's ego as it is to go over to this person's fucking house and start some shit. I don't even think the guy is going to go to prison for it. And that's not even really my point. The point is that, like, how you can fucking think anything. It wasn't just that people show a level of sympathy for the gentleman for being upset about the thing with his kid. I understand that. But it's that they defend it as if this was the logical thing to do. You're fucking stupid as fuck. And this is the kind of shit, which is why I'm so worried about the fucking state of the world. Because we're acting in a very similar fashion with these, with the current, situation that we have going on in Europe, where this like need to, basically the argument being made is we're going to need to send money, we're going to need to suffer at home, pay more, and a lot of people are going to die to fucking prove to Putin that we're not a bunch of bitches. And it's like, what is that worth? Maybe it's worth a certain amount to you, but what is it worth? That's essentially what they're doing, because it's too late to salvage the situation. Okay, it's too late. So you're going to need to take the slower, more reasonable approach of finding some kind of fucking agreement on this. Okay, the opportunity to use full bravado is past. That bluff's already been fucking called, and it ain't happening. Unless, of course, they've decided that they're going to kill us all, which will be for what purpose? To prove that they're better than Putin, who's Trump and Hitler and all kind of shit. It's so fucking stupid. Why is nobody... Where is the intelligent person? Where is the... where is the feminine... these women, I'd like to see... This is something that could be positive, but I don't see a lot of it. Certainly didn't see it in this video of this fucking asshole getting himself shot in Texas. His wife, his new wife, who's videotaping, doesn't react in any kind of fucking like severe way to her husband being killed. But it's like she displayed, in my opinion, toxic femininity. Because what should... I would feel like you would hope your wife would be like, hey, you know what, honey? I know you're really upset, but we gotta fucking think here for a second. If you really want to nail this bitch, the way we gotta do it is we gotta call the cops, we gotta do that, to fucking slow down and be a little bit more, maybe a little bit more conniving about it. Would probably even have been better than what they did. Be a little bit more wily about it. That would be a more feminine way to approach it, which would have, in this gentleman's favor, probably saved his fucking life. His wife didn't make any attempt to calm him down. It's like, they want women to run the world. Maybe if women were the way that they are portrayed, then they should run the world. But unfortunately, they're not. Because if they were that way, they would be stopping this nonsense. They would be like, you know what? We gotta stop killing people. To stop killing, we just gotta stop. That's. But we got none of that. We got everybody is just as vicious and bloodthirsty as everybody else. We're having a competition to see who can be more fucking stubborn. Because the thing is that in this situation, because people, I can already hear an argument, well, Putin's being stubborn too. Yeah, but the stakes are different for him. You're talking about a situation which, I'm not sympathizing with Putin. I'm just telling you this is how they're seeing it. They see this situation as an existential threat to their survival. And right now, this is being more or less sold to the American people as some sort of fucking play, like some exercise, like this is some kind of fucking joke or something that we're doing on Twitter and everything, and Ghost of Kiev and all kind of fucking bullshit, and everything's a fucking game. Well, I don't think it's a game to Putin, so we're gonna have to realize that and fucking work within the bounds of that reality. If we choose not to work within the bounds of reality, then there is no fucking accounting for what could happen. We might end up dead on the guy's porch. You know what I mean? But, I don't know, that's about it for right now. I hope it made some kind of sense. I don't know. Consider it, if I, you know, what I should do is split them into multiple videos, but I actually think YouTube prefers the longer videos, and I think I just make it one big long video. Oh, God. So, yeah. Post in-state gas prices, you know. Curious as to what everybody's paying. I got $4.25 down the street here. That's very fascinating. It's starting to approach like the levels of like what like when you watched a movie of some like of a dystopian future or some shit, and everything's collapsing, and they would show like the gas prices would be like $5.87. That's crazy. I so hope I'm wrong about what I think is going to be coming to us this summer, but I'm definitely fucking buying a motorcycle this year. Finally decided gas is the excuse, so that'll be fun. I'll talk to you folks later.